Project Scorpio is of course out next Christmas in 2017, but what's really interesting is that some of the games coming out now, for example like Gears of War 4, and the games are still ahead of us in the busy pre-Christmas period in November, are undoubtedly going to support the Xbox Scorpio as well as of course the already released PS4 Pro. But we have some really interesting comments from the head of the coalition, Rod Fergusson, and he spoke at the Daily Star about various things, including the transformation in the console gaming industry, and he talked a little bit about the Project Scorpio and a few other bits. Of course, Gears 4 is undoubtedly going to support the Scorpio when the Scorpio actually comes out, and it's really going to be a bit of a poster child for what the Scorpio can do in comparison to the vanilla Xbox One. Now, one of the things that he discussed is that console gamers do eventually fall behind their PC gaming counterparts, saying that initially consoles are always able to outperform PC because of the cheaper price point, but as time goes on, things will quickly get better on the PC side of things. And he said, quote, "I think when you look at what the console market was up to now, it was basically, here's a fixed product, live with it for 8 years. Be excited on day one, and then watch over the next 8 years as you fall behind PC players because hardware has moved on, because you haven't, your games start looking rough. Initially, because of price point, consoles are always able to outperform PC on first day and look better than the PC for that price point, and that's why you're all excited. But then year 4 or even sooner, you're like, oh, my console games maybe don't look as good as the PC counterpart. That's because they've been upgrading the video card every year. So you get in a system that you lose, you disconnect from the technology curve within the consoles. And naturally, mid-generational console upgrades are potentially a sort of answer to this particular issue, as of course, you know, you don't get an issue like we had last generation where the Xbox 360 and the PS3 had a hugely lengthy console generation. That generation, as I said many times, is abnormal in comparison to what we normally get, and by the end of it you could really see that the PS3 and Xbox 360 were not wearing their age of much grace, and they were holding back PC games as well because, you know, developers had to make sure that their games ran on very old hardware. And Rod Fergusson also touched on this, and he said, quote, "For me, it's this idea that without that generation, okay, I've got to wait 8 years to get a better looking game. That idea that, hey, without generations I can have this game, I can bring my backwards compatibility, my digital library with me. It will take advantage of that new power. Like now, things that use dynamic resolution will become fixed frame rates, fixed resolutions, and those sorts of things, whereas now you can advantage of that power, and you don't have to wait 10 years to get that advantage or get new content that takes advantage of it." Now, of course, one of the key selling points for the Scorpio is going to be its support for 4K, and hopefully it's also going to give us the option for 60 frames, like, say, Rise of the Tomb Raider has done, where you can choose between 4K and a higher frame rate mode. That would be great if we also see that on Scorpio as well. But he says that there needs to be a, quote, honest conversation around 4K so that people can decide what 4K really means to them. And he said, quote, "You see some games doing that today where you fire them up and they ask you, hey, what's important to you, 60 frames or do you want higher res 4K resolution? It's an actual honest to God choice. I think it's been interesting, and over the last 5 years, frame rates has been the big thing. Everything has to be 60 FPS, you've got to play at 60, so that's where you see us now with Gears 4 multiplayer to feel responsive and like a modern day shooter. But now that we're hitting those frame rates, the big thing is about the quality of image, and that's where we'll see the discussion of what is 4K and what does this mean for the future of games." So yeah, he does talk about that choice there and how, you know, we have that now available to us in some games. He's talking like it's like this widespread thing. Not really, we've only seen it in a few games, and to be honest, that is something I'm really looking forward to in the new consoles rather than 4K. I just want the option to play these games in 60 frames on console. If I'm playing a console exclusive, more often than not, I'm probably going to choose the 60 frames option. I've said this a few times, and obviously this is PS4 exclusive, but if, say, From Software to say, here's a patch that makes Bloodborne run at 60, but it looks slightly worse, obviously I'm going to go for that, and I'll go for that pretty much in like 100% of cases, to be honest, because there's no downside. So that's what I'm really looking forward to. It's great that we can start pushing 4K, but personally I want to see the frame rate. I want to see developers give players the choice. And it seems that at least the bigwigs over at the coalition, of course Microsoft, are hearing that, but whether or not developers support it, we're going to have to see. Thank you very much for watching. As always, your support is really appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and I'll see you next time.